H. Continue. Certainly. I'll begin writing the story based on the outline I provided. Here's the first part of the story. Part 1. The Galactic Misunderstanding. In the vast expanse of the Milky Way, where countless civilizations had risen and fallen, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. The United Earth government had achieved faster-than-light travel just decades ago, catapulting the species into the galactic community. However, their reception was not quite what they had anticipated. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood before the imposing council of the Galactic Federation, her heart racing beneath her carefully composed exterior. The chamber, a marvel of alien architecture, loomed around her. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors watched from tiered seating, their eyes, or equivalent sensory organs, fixed upon the human representative. Honored members of the council, Elena began, her voice clear and steady. I come before you today to address a misunderstanding that has persisted since humanity's induction into the Federation. A low murmur rippled through the assembly. Councillor Zixtera, a towering insectoid with iridescent wings, leaned forward. Speak plainly, Ambassador. What misunderstanding do you refer to? Elena took a deep breath. It has come to our attention that humanity is classified as a Level 2 species on the Federation's Aggression Index. This categorization has led to certain assumptions about our nature and capabilities. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant hum of machinery seemed to pause. Assumptions. Councillor Krell, a being composed of swirling gases contained within a transparent exoskeleton, asked, Your species has consistently chosen diplomacy over conflict. You have ceded territory without resistance. You have never initiated hostilities. These are not assumptions, Ambassador. These are observed facts. Elena nodded, acknowledging the councillor's words. You are correct, Councillor Krell. However, the reasoning behind these actions has been misinterpreted. She tapped a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display flickered to life above the center of the chamber. It showed scenes from Earth's history, great battles, technological marvels, and the aftermath of terrible conflicts. Humanity's history is steeped in warfare, Elena explained, her voice solemn. We have fought countless battles among ourselves, developed weapons of unimaginable destruction, and brought our own world to the brink of annihilation more than once. The council members watched in silence as images of mushroom clouds and devastated cities flashed before them. It is precisely because we know the true cost of war that we choose peace, Elena continued. We strive for diplomacy not out of weakness, but out of a deep understanding of conflict's consequences. Councillor Zixtera's antennae twitched. If what you say is true, why have you not defended yourselves against clear provocations? The Zanuck claimed your colony. The Huddle imprisoned your diplomats. These are acts of war by Federation standards. Elena's expression hardened. Because, Councillor, we knew we could win those conflicts, and we knew the cost would be too high. Not for us, but for our opponents. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Humanity has chosen restraint. Elena pressed on. We have the capacity for great violence, but we also have the wisdom to avoid it when possible. Our low rating on the aggression index is not a measure of our capability, but of our choice. The holographic display changed, showing the rapid advancement of human technology since achieving faster-than-light travel. Ships that could outmaneuver the best the Federation had to offer. Weapons that could pierce the strongest known shields. Medical technology that could regrow limbs and cure diseases thought incurable. We have shared some of our advancements with the Federation, Elena said, but much has been held in reserve. Not out of mistrust, but out of caution. We know how quickly technology can be turned to destructive purposes. Councillor Krell's gaseous form swirled agitatedly. Are you threatening the Federation, Ambassador? Elena shook her head emphatically. No, Councillor. I am explaining why threats against humanity have been unwise. We are not pacifists. We are not weak. We are a species that has looked into the abyss of our own violent nature and chosen a different path. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some outraged, others curious, still others fearful. Elena stood firm, waiting for the commotion to die down. Finally, the High Counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a hovering orb, spoke. Its voice resonated through the minds of all present. Ambassador Rodriguez, your words are troubling. They challenge the very foundations of how we have understood your species. What do you propose we do with this revelation? Elena's posture relaxed slightly. High Counselor, members of the Federation, we propose a revaluation. Not just of humanity's position within the Federation, but of the aggression index itself. A species' capacity for violence and its willingness to engage in it are two very different things. She paused, looking around the chamber. Moreover, we offer our experience. Humanity has walked the razor's edge between self-destruction and enlightenment. We have valuable insights to share about managing conflict, both internal and external. The High Counselor's orb pulsed thoughtfully. This is much to consider, Ambassador. The Council will need time to deliberate on your words and their implications. Elena bowed respectfully. Of course, High Counselor. We await your decision. As she turned to leave the chamber, Elena could feel the weight of countless alien gazes upon her. She had just shattered the galaxy's perception of humanity. What came next would depend on how the Federation chose to react to this new understanding. Outside the council chambers, Elena's assistant, Marcus Chen, fell into step beside her. How did it go? He asked, his voice low. Elena let out a long breath. About as well as we could have hoped. They're shocked, possibly scared, but they're listening. Marcus nodded. Good, because we're going to need their cooperation for what's coming. Elena's steps faltered for a moment. You've received confirmation. Then, Marcus's expression was grim. Yes, the long-range sensors picked them up an hour ago. The Devourers are real, and they're heading straight for Federation space. Elena's jaw tightened. Then we'd better hope the Council comes to a decision quickly, because humanity may be the galaxy's best hope for survival. As they walked towards the Earth Embassy, both Elena and Marcus knew that the real challenge was just beginning. Humanity had revealed its true nature to the galaxy, but would it be enough to face the threat that loomed on the horizon? The fate of not just Earth, but countless worlds, hung in the balance. The stars glittered coldly in the viewport of their shuttle, indifferent to the monumental shifts occurring in the political landscape of the galaxy. Humanity had taken its first step onto a larger stage, and there would be no going back. Continue. Certainly. I'll continue with Part 2 of the story. Part 2. Humanity's True Nature Revealed. The news of Ambassador Rodriguez's revelation spread through the Galactic Federation like wildfire. Species that had once viewed humans as quaint, passive creatures now regarded them with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity. In the days following the council meeting, the corridors of power buzzed with speculation and debate. On board the Terran flagship, Resilience, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the galaxy, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. Captain Ravi Mehta approached, his footsteps echoing in the quiet of the bridge. Admiral, Ravi said, saluting crisply, the Federation Council has made their decision. They're requesting our presence. Sarah nodded, her eyes never leaving the display. About time. Any word on the Devourers? Ravi's expression darkened. Long-range scans confirm they've already consumed 2 systems on the outer rim. The Federation worlds are in panic. Of course they are, Sarah murmured. She turned to face her second-in-command. They've never faced an existential threat before. Not like we have. As they made their way to the shuttle bay, Sarah reflected on the irony of the situation. Humanity, once considered the least warlike species in the Federation, was now being looked to for salvation. The council chambers were packed when they arrived. Ambassador Rodriguez was already there, engaged in hushed conversation with several alien diplomats. She nodded to Sarah and Ravi as they entered. The High Counselor's orb pulsed, calling for silence. Representatives of Earth, it began, its mental voice resonating through the chamber. We have deliberated on the information you have provided. While many among us are unsettled by the revelations about your species, we cannot ignore the threat that now faces us all. Sarah stepped forward. High Counselor, members of the Federation, I understand your concerns. But right now, the Devourers pose a greater threat than any misconceptions about humanity. Counselor Zixtere chittered nervously. You claim to have the power to stand against these Devourers, yet you've hidden your true capabilities from us. How can we trust you? Sarah's eyes narrowed. With all due respect, Counselor, trust goes both ways. We've spent years proving our commitment to peace, only to be dismissed as weak. Now that you know the truth, you question our intentions. She activated a holographic display, showing the Devourer fleet's projected path. While we debate, they draw closer. They've already destroyed 2 systems. How many more will fall while we stand here arguing? The chamber fell silent, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Ambassador Rodriguez stepped forward. We're not asking for blind trust. We're offering partnership. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before. We've developed technologies and strategies specifically designed to combat overwhelming odds. What exactly are you proposing? Counselor Krell asked, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. A joint defense force, combining the best ships and warriors from every Federation species, led by human tacticians and armed with our most advanced weaponry. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Some species were outraged at the suggestion of human leadership, while others seemed relieved to have someone take charge. Silence. The High Counselor's mental voice cut through the chaos. Admiral Chen, this is an unprecedented proposal. You're asking us to put the fate of the entire Federation in human hands. Sarah stood her ground. Not in our hands alone. But yes, we're asking you to trust us, to let us show you what humanity is truly capable of when the stakes are this high. Ambassador Rodriguez added, we've spent centuries holding ourselves back, terrified of our own potential for destruction. But now, faced with an enemy that threatens not just us, but all sentient life, we're ready to unleash that potential, for the good of all. The council chambers fell into an uneasy silence as the implications sank in. The Federation species had to grapple not only with the threat of the Devourers, but with this new understanding of their human allies. Finally, the High Counselor spoke. We will put it to a vote. All member species will have a say in this decision. The next few hours were tense as representatives from each Federation world cast their votes. Sarah, Ravi, and Elena waited anxiously, knowing that the fate of not just humanity, but the entire galaxy hung in the balance. As the final votes were tallied, the High Counselor's orb pulsed with an intensity they hadn't seen before. The decision has been made. By a narrow margin, the Federation accepts Earth's proposal. A collective exhale seemed to ripple through the chamber. However, the High Counselor continued, this acceptance comes with conditions. Human military leaders will work alongside a Federation Oversight Committee. All deployments of your advanced weaponry must be approved by this committee. Sarah nodded. It was a reasonable compromise, given the circumstances. Agreed. Now, if there are no objections, I suggest we begin immediately. The Devourers won't wait for us to be ready. As the chamber bustled with activity, Sarah turned to Elena and Ravi. This is just the beginning. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Elena's expression was grim. Do you think we can really stop them? Sarah, the Devourers. Sarah's eyes hardened with determination. We have to. Because if we can't, there won't be a galaxy left to save. As they left the council chambers, word of the decision was already spreading throughout the Federation. Humanity, long underestimated, was about to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. Ships from dozens of worlds began to converge on the designated rendezvous point. The greatest fleet in the history of the Federation was assembling, with humanity at its heart. On board the Resilience, Sarah stood before a group of alien officers, many of whom still regarded her with a mixture of awe and suspicion. "I know many of you have doubts," she began, "about us, about this plan. But right now, we're all that stands between life as we know it and total annihilation." She brought up a holographic display of the Devourer fleet. "These beings don't negotiate. They don't show mercy. They consume everything in their path. But they've never faced a united galaxy before. They've never faced humanity unleashed." Sarah's voice rang with conviction. "We've spent centuries holding ourselves back. Now, it's time to show the Devourers and the universe what happens when humanity is pushed to its limits." As her words sank in, Sarah could see a change in the eyes of the alien officers. Fear was giving way to determination. Doubt was being replaced by resolve. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin. Humanity, once thought to be the least of the Federation species, was now the linchpin in the fight for survival. As the fleet prepared for departure, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, had they revealed their true nature in time? Or had the years of misunderstanding cost them precious time in preparing for this threat? Only time would tell. And time, as the burning stars in the Devourer's wake proved, was rapidly running out. The Devourer threat escalates. The combined fleet of the Galactic Federation hung in the inky blackness of space, a testament to the unity forged in the face of an existential threat. At its heart, the Terran flagship Resilience pulsed with activity as Admiral Sarah Chen coordinated the final preparations for their confrontation with the Devourers. On the bridge, holographic displays flickered with real-time updates from the far-flung scouts monitoring the enemy's advance. Captain Ravi Mehta approached, his usually calm demeanor tinged with urgency. "Admiral," he said, "we've received new data from the Scythal reconnaissance ships. The Devourers, they've increased their speed. They'll reach the Epsilon sector within hours, not days as we initially projected." Sarah's jaw tightened. "They're adapting. Show me." A three-dimensional map of the galaxy materialized before them, red indicators representing the Devourer fleet's position. The swarm of hostile ships was indeed moving faster, consuming stars at an alarming rate. "Alert all ships," Sarah commanded. "We're initiating Phase 1 ahead of schedule." As Ravi relayed the orders, Sarah turned to the alien liaison officer, Kizrik, a member of the crystalline Vextor species. "Your people's phase shift technology, is it ready?" Kizrik's faceted body shimmered with anxiety. "We've only had days to integrate it with your vessels, Admiral. It's untested in actual combat conditions." "It'll have to do," Sarah replied grimly. "We're out of time for tests." Across the fleet, ships began to power up their newly installed phase shift drives. The technology, designed to briefly shift vessels out of normal spacetime, was their best hope for surviving the Devourer's initial assault. As the fleet moved into position, Sarah opened a channel to all ships. "This is Admiral Chen. In a few moments, we will engage an enemy unlike any we faced before. They've consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but cold, dead space in their wake. But today, we stand united. Today, we fight not just for our own worlds, but for all life in this galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity has held back for centuries, fearing our own capacity for destruction. But now, we unleash that power in defense of all. Trust in each other. Trust in the strength we found in our unity. And know this, retreat is not an option. If we fall here, there will be nowhere left to run. Good luck, and Godspeed." The channel closed, and Sarah turned to Ravi. "Status of the Nova bombs. Armed and ready, Admiral. But remember, we only have 3. We'll need to make them count." Sarah nodded. The Nova bombs, perhaps humanity's most terrifying creation, were capable of inducing a supernova in a star. They were a weapon of absolute last resort, one that the Federation Council had only reluctantly approved. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. "Devourer fleet detected. a sensor officer shouted. They're everywhere. The view screen lit up with thousands of hostile signals. The Devourers had arrived, their ships a writhing mass of organic and technological parts, defying conventional design. All ships, initiate phase shift. Sarah commanded. The Federation fleet shimmered and partially faded from view, becoming translucent as they shifted partially out of normal space. The Devourer's initial barrage of energy weapons passed harmlessly through them. It worked, Kizrik exclaimed, his crystalline body resonating with excitement. Don't celebrate yet, Sarah cautioned. Phase 2, commence. From the depths of the Federation fleet, specially designed ships launched swarms of self-replicating nanites. These microscopic machines, born of human ingenuity and alien metallurgy, swarmed towards the Devourer ships. For a moment, it seemed as though the battle was turning in their favor. The nanites began to disassemble the outer layers of the Devourer vessels, turning their own technology against them. But the victory was short-lived. Admiral, Ravi called out, his voice tight with alarm. The Devourers. They're adapting to the nanites. They're absorbing them. Sarah watched in horror as the Devourer ships began to glow with newfound energy. The nanites, designed to disassemble and weaken the enemy, were instead being integrated into their systems. All ships disengage nanite attack. Sarah ordered, but it was too late. The Devourers, now enhanced by the very weapon meant to destroy them, launched a devastating counterattack. Federation ships began to fall, their defenses overwhelmed by the supercharged Devourers. The phase shift technology, their primary defense, was failing under the onslaught. We need to fall back and regroup, Kizrik urged, but Sarah stood firm. No, if we retreat now, we'll never get another chance to stop them. Prepare the Nova bombs. A hush fell over the bridge. They all knew what that meant. Target the star at the heart of the Devourer fleet, Sarah commanded. We'll take out as many of them as we can in one strike. As the Nova bomb was launched, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on the irony. Humanity, in trying to avoid becoming the destroyers they feared they could be, had created a weapon capable of killing stars. And now, they were using it to save the galaxy. The bomb detonated, and for a moment, it seemed as though a new star had been born. The explosion engulfed a significant portion of the Devourer fleet, vaporizing hundreds of ships in an instant. But as the light faded, Sarah's heart sank. While they had destroyed many Devourer vessels, it wasn't enough. The remaining ships were already beginning to regroup, their adaptive technology working to protect them from the stellar radiation. Admiral, Ravi said, his voice barely above a whisper, we've lost almost 40% of our fleet. The Zixian and Vortex contingents are completely gone. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those losses. When she opened them again, they burned with determination. Send out the distress call to Earth. It's time for the Lazarus Protocol. Ravi's eyes widened. But Admiral, that's untested. We don't know if. We're out of options, Captain, Sarah cut him off. If the Lazarus Protocol fails, there won't be anything left to save anyway. As the call went out, Sarah turned her gaze to the view screen, watching as the battle continued to rage. The fate of the galaxy now rested on a desperate gambit, a technology so dangerous that even humanity had been afraid to test it. The Devourers pressed their attack, unaware that their seeming victory might be short-lived. For racing towards the battlefield, hidden from all conventional sensors, was humanity's final, terrible weapon. The Lazarus Protocol was activated, and with it, the true nature of humanity's power was about to be revealed to the galaxy. The question remained, would it be enough? Or had humanity's reluctance to embrace their full potential doomed them all? As the Devourer ships closed in, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Resilience, ready to face whatever came next. The greatest battle in the history of the galaxy was far from over. Continue. Certainly. Here's part 4 of the story. Part 4. Earth's Desperate Gambit. The bridge of the Resilience was eerily quiet, the usual hum of activity replaced by a tense silence. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the viewport, watching as the remnants of the once mighty Federation fleet struggled against the relentless Devourer onslaught. The stars themselves seemed to dim, as if in mourning for the lives lost in this cosmic struggle. "Admiral." Captain Ravi Mehta's voice broke the silence. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth." It's the Prime Minister." Sarah turned, her face a mask of determined calm. "Put her through." The holographic image of Prime Minister Yuki Tanaka flickered to life in the center of the bridge. Her usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, evidence of long, sleepless hours. "Admiral Chen," Yuki began, her voice steady despite the clear strain in her eyes, "we've received your distress call. The Lazarus Protocol has been initiated. ETA to your position. 30 minutes. Sarah nodded grimly. "Thank you, Prime Minister. I take full responsibility for." "This isn't the time for that, Sarah." Yuki cut her off. "You did what you had to do. Now, it's our turn to unveil what humanity has been hiding all along." As the transmission ended, Ravi turned to Sarah, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. "Admiral, what exactly is the Lazarus Protocol?" "The crew. They're scared. There are rumors." "The rumors are probably true," Sarah said, her voice low. "The Lazarus Protocol is why humanity has always held back. It's the reason we've avoided war at all costs. Because if we ever fully unleashed our potential..." She trailed off, her gaze returning to the battle raging outside. "Let's just say, Captain, that the galaxy is about to see why humans have always been so afraid of themselves." The next 30 minutes were the longest of Sarah's life. The Federation fleet, despite fighting with unprecedented valor, was being systematically decimated. The Devourers, having absorbed and adapted to every weapon thrown at them, seemed unstoppable. And then it happened. At first, it was just a flicker on the long-range sensors. Then, a ripple in space-time itself. Suddenly, with a flash that outshone nearby stars, a new fleet appeared on the battlefield. But these weren't ordinary ships. They were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. "By the cosmic core," Kisrik whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with shock. "What are those?" The new arrivals defied conventional physics. Some seemed to phase in and out of reality, while others appeared to bend space around them. At their center was a massive vessel that pulsed with energy that made the sensors go haywire. "That," Sarah said, a mix of pride and trepidation in her voice, "is the true face of human ingenuity. The Lazarus fleet." As they watched, the Lazarus ships engaged the Devourers. What had been a one-sided slaughter suddenly became a battle of titans. Ships that could manipulate gravity itself created artificial black holes, swallowing Devourer vessels whole. Others released swarms of nanobots that could rewrite matter at the subatomic level, turning the Devourer's adaptive technology against them. But the true shock came from the flagship of the Lazarus fleet. It fired a beam of pure energy that seemed to unravel the fabric of space-time itself. Devourer ships caught in its path didn't just explode. They ceased to exist, erased from reality itself. "Admiral," Ravi said, his voice shaking, Are those humans piloting those ships?" Sarah's expression was grim. "Not exactly, Captain. The Lazarus Protocol. It's a fusion of human consciousness and machine. Those ships are piloted by the digitized minds of volunteers who gave up their physical forms to become one with the most advanced technology we could create." The revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge. The alien members of the crew looked at their human counterparts with a new understanding and a new fear. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the tide was turning. The Devourers, for the first time, were on the defensive. Their adaptive capabilities, so effective against conventional weapons, were being overwhelmed by technology that rewrote the rules of physics itself. But the victory, if it could be called that, came at a terrible cost. The very fabric of space in the battlefield was becoming unstable. Stars flickered ominously, threatening to go nova from the energies being unleashed. "Admiral," Kisrick said, his voice filled with awe and terror, "your people, you could have conquered the galaxy at any time, couldn't you? Why? Why did you hide this power?" Sarah turned to the alien liaison, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. "Because, Kisrick, we knew that if we ever used this technology, there might not be a galaxy left to save. Look around you. We're not just defeating the Devourers, we're tearing apart the very foundations of space-time." As if to emphasize her point, a nearby star suddenly flared and went supernova, its death throes warped by the reality-bending energies saturating the battlefield. "Send the signal to the Lazarus fleet," Sarah commanded. "Tell them to finish this, whatever the cost. We can't let this battle drag on any longer, or there won't be anything left to protect." As the order was relayed, the Lazarus flagship moved into position. It began to glow with an intensity that made it painful to look at, even through the filtered view screens. "All Federation ships, this is Admiral Chen," Sarah broadcast. "Fall back to minimum safe distance. I repeat, fall back immediately." As the surviving ships retreated, the Lazarus flagship unleashed its final weapon. A wave of energy unlike anything ever recorded swept across the battlefield. Where it touched, space itself seemed to crystallize, trapping the Devourer fleet in a pocket of frozen time and space. When the energy wave dissipated, the Devourers were gone. But so was a significant portion of the sector. Where once there had been a vibrant star cluster, now there was only a void, a dead zone where the laws of physics no longer seemed to apply. As the crew of the Resilience stared in shock at the aftermath, Sarah Chen felt the weight of what they had done settle on her shoulders. Humanity had saved the galaxy, yes, but in doing so, they had revealed a power that would forever change how they were viewed by the other species. The Devourers were defeated, but a new era of uncertainty had begun. As the Lazarus fleet disappeared as mysteriously as it had arrived, Sarah knew that the real challenge was just beginning. How could humanity assure the galaxy that they would never misuse this power? How could they return to being the peaceful species they had portrayed themselves as for so long? As the Federation fleet began the long journey home, these questions hung in the air, unanswered. The galaxy had been saved, but at what cost? And what would the future hold for a humanity now unveiled in all its terrifying potential?